Hey guys, we are back. I am definitely not doing this all in one night, and it's definitely a different time, and I'm just happen to be wearing the same thing, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. Welcome back. This is your first like lab. So yeah, this is exciting. I'm just gonna hop right into it real quick. Okay, so this is your muscular strength, endurance, and power lab. This is your first lab. Very exciting. I wish this was in person because this is always one of the favorite labs, and I love screaming at you guys for motivation to do the well on the Wingate, and it's very much fun for me. Except I lose my voice the next day. That's the only kind of like sucky part, but I don't know. I feel like we bond, when I'm like yelling and screaming at you guys, we bond a little bit. So I don't know. Unfortunately, we can't do it this semester. But we're gonna try your best. We're gonna try our best to you know, still get that connection. But yeah. What we're going to go through for this lab is I'm going to start talking about parameters of performance. There's going to be three main ones that we're really going to focus on, but I'll go through a bunch of them. I'll talk about energy systems, and then we'll go into the methods. We'll talk about the experiments that we're going to do. So we're going to do vert jump, hand grip dynamometer, and Wingate. We are not doing purpose statement or hypothesis. I forgot to get rid of that. And you guys are going to watch the method video after this or before this. I don't really know which, you guys should probably watch this video before your methods videos, but I have no control over your life. You can do whatever you want. So whatever makes you happy, just do it. And then we'll briefly talk about the results, and then you guys can read the discussion for yourself. If you guys have any questions, you know where to ask. So when we did this fill in the blank thing, last semester, I had this little John Cena every time something important was on the slide. So every time they needed to fill in the blank for something, this little John Cena popped up. But it's still pretty important stuff. So whenever he pops up, just kind of pay attention a little bit. Okay, so we're going to talk about the three main parameters of performance that we're going to focus on right here in this slide. Muscular strength, power, and endurance, the title of this lab. So this is very important. Muscular strength is basically the max force that a muscle group can exert in one single bout. So this is very high intensity, low volume. So in weightlifting kind of terms, it's like a 1 rep max. So low volume, you're only doing it once, but high intensity, 100% all out, whatever you can do. So example, 1 RM, maximum voluntary isometric contraction. So the hand grip dynamometer, one of the experiments that we're gonna do, you're gonna squeeze as hard as you can. And that's gonna be your maximal isometric contraction. Muscular power. So muscular strength and muscular power get confused a lot, but the only thing that's different between muscular strength and muscular power is the aspect of speed. So the ability for a muscle group to exert force at a speed. So that's how it's a little bit different. You're not going to be exerting a lot of force during muscular power, but you're going to be able to move it at high speeds. So this comes with formula. You can look at it. Examples of these are 1 RM cleans and vertical jumps. So very high explosive movements. So this is happening at a fast pace. Muscular strength generally doesn't happen at a fast pace. If you have ever seen a powerlifting competition, I know, and that's so confusing why they name it powerlifting, because it's not power, it's maximal strength. So it should be maximal strength lifting, but they call it powerlifting just to confuse us, Anyway, during a powerlifting competition, you have your three main lifts. You have your squat, your bench, your deadlift. So if you ever see those, they're kind of going at a slow speed. You're gonna like watch them like kind of shake and their face get really red, but they're not gonna be going at like a very fast pace. As opposed to Olympic weightlifting, where you watch this during the Olympics, these guys kind of move a lot of weight really fast. Like they move it off the ground, they're like, and like bam, already on the shoulders, like already up there, clean and jerk, bam, up in the air, so fast. That's the difference between them. One's kind of like slowish and one's supposed to be really fast. Muscular endurance is like very different from the other two. It's ability for a muscle to contract over and over and over again. This is generally at very, very low intensities. So like long distance running. So you're gonna be taking those steps, but it's not gonna be like high intensity. And these are not very like I said, not very high intensity. Examples, your long distance running, like I said before, and in terms of weightlifting, it's gonna be your rep ranges from like 15 to 20 plus reps. Other parameters of performance, I'm not gonna go over them like super in depth like I did the first three because you're not gonna need these as much as you need the first three. So we got aerobic power, aerobic endurance, and agility. Aerobic power is the maximum rate of energy that can be produced at oxidative energy systems, so like VO2 max. Aerobic endurance is the ability for the body to intake oxygen and to deliver to the rest of the body for an extended period of time, so long periods of time, while aerobic power is not as long. So marathons, triathlons. Agility, you can see the little pup right here trying to do his little agility moves. Like it's gonna be the ability is to start, stop, make turns, you know, like things like that. So ability to change directions. And that could be box jumps or rope ladder. Speed, it's time, cover, a fixed distance. Like it's literally just, you know, your sprints. So like 100-meter dash, 40-yard dash, things like that. Flexibility, the range of motion of a joint, sit and reach, pretty easy. Body comp is basically proportions of like your fat mass to fat-free mass. So this can be measured using skin folds, hydrostatic weighing, DEXA, bod pod, things like that. We're going to be talking about that in the next lab, which is very exciting. I really like body comp. But yeah, keep that in mind. Now we're going to get into energy systems. So it's super important that you keep those two things separated in your mind, parameters of performance and energy systems. We're going to be talking about 3 and 3. So I know it can be a little bit confusing. We're talking about 3 things here and 3 things there, but they are related a little bit. So the first energy system is the phosphagen system. So this system, like the production of ATP, super fast, and the amount is really low. This is for really high intensity, like 1 RMs, 10-yard dashes, like you can see it here, the guy like hitting the baseball with the baseball bat, like super intense bouts of energy. Like I said, short durations, 3 to 10 seconds, super fast. This is basically just the pool of ATP that's already just sitting in your body. Like you are gonna use that ATP to produce this movement. While the glycolytic system, it kind of has to like produce the ATP in order to do the movements. So you're not just using the stored ATP within your body, you're gonna have to make it yourself. So slow rate of ATP production and low amounts of ATP produced. These are like moderate intensity exercises for short to moderate durations, moderate being 2 minutes, 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and these are going to be your like 200-meter to 400-meter sprints. Jiu-jitsu is also considered primarily glycolytic. But these 2 balls are so cute. All right. Finally, the third one, oxidative system. These are going to be like your fatty acid oxidation, your glucose oxidation. These are going to take a long time to do. So it's really slow at making ATP, but it will produce a lot of it. These are low intensity exercises. So like your marathons, things like that. Like it's not like super high pace, super high intensity. These are going to be lasting longer than 3 minutes. Like your 1 mile run, marathons, things like that. Also, if you guys don't know, there's like a race dedicated to people like people were wearing heels while they're running, which is already crazy. Running is just already crazy to me because running it's a lot. I used to sprint. That was my thing. I jumped over hurdles at very, very short distances. Long distance people, I don't know how you do it. It seems awful to me. It seems like those kind of people are masochists. I just don't understand it, but to each their own. But I just thought this is really funny. If you ever get a chance to like look it up on YouTube, see people running in heels. I think there's like a dedicated like males only heel race or whatever, and it's very fun to watch them run. This is kind of like a picture of everything that we just talked about. So the phosphagen system, it's used first. Technically, all these systems are used at the same time. They're all working at the same time during movements and during like living. But one is used primarily like more than the other at certain times. So short duration times, you're using your phosphagen system. So these are like really quick movements, like one movement kind of thing. This is your ATP storage. Your glycolytic, this is gonna be like glycolysis without like, you know, the end electron transport chain part. Your glycolytic system is used after your phosphagen system, like primarily used after your phosphagen system. So these are gonna be your moderate times. And then as you keep going, as you keep exercising, this is gonna be your aerobic system. We're gonna get into oxidation. We're gonna get into glycogen, like glucose oxidation. We're going to get into fatty acid oxidation. These are like taking a long time to produce the ATP, but the ATP comes in massive amounts, at least compared to the other two. All right, first experiment, hand grip dynamometer. So basically, if you were here in class, if we were here in our lab, I wish we were, but we're not. I would have you guys take your little hand grip dynamometer, make sure your hands are at your sides and everything is like all fitted to your hand size. And then you squeeze the dynamometer with maximal exertion for 4 seconds. You repeat it 3 times with each hand. You make sure you record everything. That's going to be your max grip strength, MBIC. So the second part of this experiment is your isometric endurance. So it's the muscular endurance portion of this. So the other one is maximal strength. This is muscular endurance. Basically, you take 50% of that max, like, you know, thing that you hit, the measurement that you hit, and then you make sure you're holding that 50% value, and you see how long you could do it. So you measure the time. Hold calculated weight until fatigue. Record the time in seconds, do it each hand. And then for experiment 2, this is gonna be your vert jump. This is kind of fun. So determine your dominant hand. Most people is their right hand. You do a standing reach, you walk over. You'll see this in the video. It'll make more sense in the methods video. You get your standing reach, and then you'll go for your jumps. So after you set everything up. You'll have the counter movement, make them jump, hit the little ticks. You'll record the highest tick, and you'll do that 3 times, I believe. Make sure you rest in between each time, each jump. And then finally, the wind gate. The wind gate is fun. This is the one where I yell at you guys, but not this semester, unfortunately. This one is a little bit more complicated. You need like rolls, you need a bunch of people to do it. So you have generally 4 people. Sometimes you can get away with 3. In the video, we did 3 people. So you have your leader, the person that yells at the subject. You have your timer, the person that like times 30 seconds and calls out every 5 seconds. You have your counter and your recorder. So you first have to determine the resistance for your subject. So for women, it's going to be about 7% of your body weight. For men, it's going to be 9%. And for people who are really trying to go all out, it's going to be 11%. It's your athletes. It's 11% of your body weight. This one's really hard. I know those like percentages, they don't sound like a lot, but like when you're on the bike for 30 seconds, those 30 seconds feel like hours. And these all have to be in kilograms. So all of the stuff that we're going to be doing in this lab, everything is in the metric system. So gonna be your kilograms, gonna be your centimeters, things like that. First you have to adjust the seat, then you have them warm up, and then you load the calculated resistance. And then from there, the magic starts. So the leader starts counting down from 5, and the subject pedals faster and faster and faster until they're going at max speed, and until the leader counts to 0. Once the leader says 0, the leader will release the resistance and start encouraging them, because they're gonna hit a wall. So they're gonna just be like, oh, like wow. The timer starts counting, or starts the stopwatch. The counter starts counting, so they're going to be counting the revolutions. So every time their foot hits a certain point, they're going to choose a point in which they're going to like measure or whatever. So let's say they choose the bottom part of the cycle, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, that's what they're going to do. And every 5 seconds, the timer notifies the counter with a nonverbal cue, usually like a tap or something. I don't know. Then the counter calls out the number of revolutions, and the recorder writes down the number of revolutions. And then this is all going to be repeated until the 30 seconds is completed. At 30 seconds, the timer or counter will signal to the leader that the test has ended. This is important to do it in a like non-verbal way, because usually when I'm yelling, I can't hear anyone else while I'm yelling. So just be like, hey, leader, stop. And then the leader will like remove the resistance. They'll pull back on that string, and then the subject will continue to pedal until they start cooling down without any resistance. That's basically the gist of it. You'll get to see, I don't know what that was. That was like a little dust. But you'll get to see in the videos. The videos are good. Pause the video. This is what you're gonna need for your subject information. So her name is Riley. She's female, Caucasian, 18 years old, 137 pounds, 62.27 kilograms. She trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu twice a day, 5 days a week, and weightlifts 3 times a week. These are reference values. These are all going to be in your manual. So yeah. Fatigue index. So you'll notice that this is like part of your results section. Basically, it shows the percent of power decline. So this is going to be during your wind gate. So the greater the percentage, the faster they fatigue. So this speaks to the kind of athlete that this person is. So if they have a higher fatigue index, so a higher percentage, that usually means that they're a strength or power athlete. They're moderate percentage, they're middle, like distance athlete. And if they're low, they're going to be endurance. So what this means is it doesn't mean that the like endurance athletes have like more power than the power athletes, because this is a power test. What fatigue index tells you is like how well they can keep up a certain intensity. So the peak power of the power athletes is going to be much, much, much higher than the endurance athletes. But the endurance athletes are going to have a much lower fatigue index, because they can keep a certain power, they can keep a certain like level of intensity for a longer duration of time than the power or strength athletes, because they're used to training at very, very, very short bursts. So they're not used to training for 30 seconds. I hope that like clears things up. We're gonna get into statistics. So I'm just gonna go over this very briefly. The reason why you need this is because you're gonna need this for the rest of the labs. Correlation. So I'm gonna like very, very basic statistics is what we're gonna go over. Correlation is basically the relationship between variables. So whether or not there's a relationship between variables, and that is through, you can see this through the R coefficient. So an R of -1 means a strong negative correlation. What does that mean? So right over here, I have a example for you guys. So water supply versus gummy bear production. You can see right here that the trend line is going down. So when the trend line is going down, that's your negative correlation. So basically, as gummy bear production goes up, water supply goes down. It's like they are inverse. So as one variable goes up, the other variable goes down. That's a negative correlation. That's going to be an R of -1. You can see right here, this R is not negative. That's because it is squared. So that's going to be a little something different that I'm going to talk about after this. But when it has no correlation, it's going to be 0 or close to 0. So you can see all these little points. It doesn't look like there's any kind of relationship. So you can't make like this line is almost like, you know, horizontal. Like it almost doesn't have like any kind of dip or anything to it. So no correlation means there's no relationship between the two. So there's like nothing. Yeah. And then a positive correlation, anything that's positive, you know, that's going to be as one variable goes up, the other one goes up as well. So for this one, as water supply, as gummy bear production went up, water supply also went up. And yeah, so you see that upwards trend line as opposed to the negative correlation, which is the downwards trend line, the inverse relationship. Okay, so we're going to talk about that R squared that you saw on that little graph right there. So what that is, what the R squared value is something called shared variance. And like, I know this little part right here is like really kind of confusing, and like it's words that like really don't make sense together. But like once you keep looking at it and keep reading it, it'll hopefully make a little bit more sense. There are videos on YouTube that explain it way better than I do. But I'm going to try my best. So basically what R squared tells you is the percent of like shared variance. So R squared is a percent. Think of it like, you know how percentages, like when they're decimals, like they can be shown as decimals. So this would be like 87% of like the variance is shared. So right here for this, 87% of the things that are like of the variance between the two like variables, they're shared. And I know that's like, what does that even mean? That's okay. So our TLDR right here, if anyone's like a Redditor, it's basically how much does one variable predict the other variable. So we can see that in this little Venn diagram we got right there. So we got your gummy bear production and your water supply right here, and this little middle part is the shared variance. So what, like how, like percentage of what one variable explains the other variable. So like I said before, if it was this, 87% of the variance would be shared. So 87% of this one variable explains the other variable. So how much change? So like how much does gummy bear production change predict water supply change? that makes any sense. If it doesn't, that's okay. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that can probably help you a lot better. And that's it. This is all we have for this lab. If you have any questions for me, please let me know. Next week is your body composition lab. We will be talking about hydrostatic weighing and skin folds. Great, great fun stuff. I'm very excited for it. So what's due tonight, or I guess if you're watching it on the day it's due, which is probably not a good idea, is this lab. So this lab is due a week from when this video is released. Check your syllabus. It'll help you. I know it's a little confusing, but just make sure you just have it printed out, everything like that. It'll help you a lot. And if you have any questions, please ask me. We're gonna have like a little, our meeting time is where you can ask me questions for this lab. So yeah. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I will talk to you soon.